Okay, we're back with another episode of High Rated Edison. Today we have John at 97 Eater on 1504 rating versus BB1210 on 849 rating. So John quite deep into the top 100. I think that's a top 10 score at the minute. And BB just outside of the top 200, but they are playing Lightsworn, which is very cool. So we're going to feature it. So opening hands are Hamster, Gale, Sirocco, D Prison and Shura. So this kind of looks like hybrid Black Wings, but it might just be Vayu Turbo with the Shura tech, because when you play hybrid you don't normally play the hamster stuff. So I'm going to guess it's Vayu Turbo with the tech Shura. We've seen a few players do that. On this side we've got Celestia, Threatening Roar, Raikou, Monster Reincarnation, Wolf and Gauze. Yeah, this is interesting. It looks like Lightsworn, but the Monster Reincarnation is kind of making me think it might be Twilight, because in Twilight you play Darks, so you might want to get back like Dad. They're playing Gauze as well. Not all the Lightsworn players are kind of used to Gauze, but otherwise most Lightsworn players are playing Beckoning, so interesting that they're choosing Reincarnation, which kind of loses to Crow and requires a discard. Let's get into it though, see how it goes. Just going to start with set Raikou, set Threatening. Pick up for turn is Caius. I'm going to start with the Shura. Shura's going to attempt to get in. Flip Raikou, get rid of it. Mills, JD, Garoth, and Lila. Yeah, I mean, there's potential to just Threatening Roar there and then use the Raikou to pop whatever they end up setting alongside the Shura. But I think this is a really good trade. Pick up a turn there is a Raikou. Set the Raikou and pass. Pick up a turn is Braincon. Sirocco coming down with the Gale now. This is nice. So going to make Stardust. Stardust is going to attempt to attack. It's going to get Threatening Roared. Pass, draw for turn is Judgment Dragon. They're not, funnily enough, they're not a million miles away from that now. So I wonder if you flip the Raikou, just mill, or flip the Raikou, play into the Stardust. I think you flip the Raikou, mill, and then you Monster Reincarnation the JD back, pitch in the Wolf. So they'll get their Stardust off board, and then you've got a JD that can take out this D Prison and go from there. See what they go for. Yeah, so they're going to Raikou attempt. Stardust going to get that off the board. Then they're going to Monster Reincarnation back the JD. Yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Yep, they're going to get him for 3k with the JD. They're going to pass. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. The opponent has Braincon cards, which obviously you can't, you just can't play around that really. Not this early into a game anyway. But that's a really solid conversion. Stardust coming back now. And now, ultimately your hope is that they don't do anything else this turn, so you can just beat over the Stardust next turn. Braincon coming down now. Yep, they're going to take the JD. Greffa. Dump the Plague now, and if it weren't for Gauze, this would be game. So Greffa, Stardust, yeah, putting out the Gauze now. Yeah, this is good, because this just means that after they attack, you're going to be left with something that can beat over the Stardust. Yeah. Main phase 2 now. Yeah, they're going to try to use the JD. They're going to negate with Stardust to get rid of the JD so it doesn't go back. Yeah, this is clever. They're going to stack the Hamster. This feels a bit unnecessary. I guess you don't want this, you want to put something up that can beat over the token. But, yeah, you're losing the Stardust anyway. So this doesn't feel great. Okay. Pick up for turn there is a Lila. So they're going to bring out the Lila, bring out the JD. Change the token to attack. Yep, JD over the Goyo. Yeah. Yeah, and John just scooping it up there. I think if they watch this back, I think they would also think that was a bit unnecessary. To make the Goyo. Maybe you were just better leaving the Greffa up, holding the Hamster, and then seeing what you draw if you get to your draw phase. Which we can kind of tell they wouldn't have anyway. So I don't think it makes too much difference. So opening hands, game number 2 are Royal Decree, MST, Raikou, Jane, and Heavy Storm. Yeah, this is what more what we expect to see. Jane is becoming a bit more of a staple in Lightsworn, just as like a 2 or a 3 of, basically because Raikou is just, so easy to play around now. People are, doing everything they can to make sure they can beat a set Raikou game turn 1. So it's nice to see Jane coming in more here, and they've also picked up a lot of back row removal. On this side we have 2 Caius, Bottomless, Vayu, Plague, and Armor Knight. Okay, this is also a really solid hand. So they're going to start with the Armor Knight, dump the Necro. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, you could think maybe dump a Sirocco because you've got a Vayu that you can set later, but this is fine. Pick up a turn there is going to be a Necro as well. They're going to MST the back row, bring out the Jane. Jane get into the Armor Knight, or attempt to. They're going to Necro Gardener. And main 2, they're going to ban it, or they're going to mill, sorry, the Celestia and the Lumina. Okay. You'd have rather drawn the Lumina, but hitting 2 Lightsworn names is always pretty good. They're going to set the Decree and pass. Draw for turn is D-Prison. They're going to tribute the Armor Knight, get rid of the Jane. Yeah, I think that's clever. I think that's what you want to be doing now. Sets the D-Prison. I think you've got to be Royal Decree in an end phase there, just in case this is something brought in, specifically for you, some kind of discard trap or something like that. TT, I know you can chain Decree to it, but you really want to turn this off as soon as possible. I think you need to Decree there in end phase. Pick up a turn is Consecrated. Yeah, they're choosing to set the Raikou. I'm wondering if just play the Consecrated, play the Decree would have been the way forward, actually. Yeah, it wouldn't have been. They were picking up Smashing Ground next. They're probably sliding this in for the Consecrated, but it doesn't feel great. Right, what else would they be bringing this in for? Highest Defense, maybe JD? Maybe they just don't have anything in the side deck that's kind of teched out for Lightsworns. Because normally it's Fissure, that's what we normally see it been. So Caius going to go over the Caius, get rid of the Raikou, try and get in for 24. That's going to be successful. Pick up a turn there as Wolf. Oh yeah, this this deck really not working with BB today, or this game at least. Smashing Ground coming down there is going to get around the Consecrated Light, and that's enough for game. Yeah, very clean, John. Very clean. Okay, going into game number 3 now. So Lightsworn is going to get to go first, which is a bit scary. Opening hands on My Body, Dark Grepher, Oppression, Gale, and Bottomless. Arcus, Cold Wave, JD, Royal Decree, Raikou, and Celestia. Okay. I'm going to set the Decree, set the Raikou, pass, pick up for turn is a Cyber Dragon. Wow, yeah, this is huge. Cyber Dragon, Gale. Yeah, this is nice. Into a Stardust. Stardust going to attack in. Raikou just going to mill. Yeah, that makes sense. So the Garroth. Yeah, this is rough. You want to see as many of your spell cards as possible when you're playing Lightsworn, but hitting a Lightsworn name is good. Going to set it all, so that's Bottomless, My Body, and Oppression. No fear of Heavy Storm, but they are going to walk right into a Royal Decree, showing off 2 of them. The My Body is a bit of a problem though, so yeah, that's interesting. Because the JD obviously can interact with the My Body. Yeah. Okay. So they're going to start with Arcus. Arcus end phase mills another copy of Celestia, same as one in hand. This is good though. This is potentially, if Arcus gets run over, this is 4 Lightsworns. And a JD going off under a Decree is terrifying. Armor Knight coming out now. Armor Knight going to dump the Necro Gardener. Okay, going to get into the Arcus now. And then Stardust Direct. Yep, that's nice. Pick up a turn is Gauze. That's a bit unfortunate. I feel like if you're playing Decree and you're siding into it, you definitely take the Gauze out. Yeah, a bit unfortunate for BB here. But let's see how they play it out. Yeah, you've also got... It's interesting, right? You've also just got the option to go Cold Wave. So I think you... Cold Wave. So what's the line here? I think it's Cold Wave. JD Summon. Attack into the Stardust. Main phase 2. Use JD. It does kind of leave you exposed to like you know, BrainCon, Caius, like whatever. But I think that's you know, I think that's pretty good. Let's see what BB decides to play it out as. No, they're just going to go with Summon JD. Yeah, I think they're the thing is, we can see that actually Royal Decree isn't shutting off the whole back row here. It's yeah, it's tough. So yeah, they're relying on Royal Decree, which I think is perfectly reasonable. If you think about it, how many times are you going to drop a JD and you're going to like be worried about my body as a shield? Like, you're not really thinking about that. You're thinking all of that back row switched off because I've got Royal Decree up. But actually, a Cold Wave would have just sealed it and would have stopped them playing spells or traps on the clapback as well. Okay. They're going to JD now. Okay, they're going to Stardust. Yeah, okay, so they've not even gone for the attack. They've gone for a really greedy play here. So they're going to JD, attempt to use the effect, Stardust attempt to negate, and then My Body as a shield to negate the Stardust. Yeah, and that is going to, ironically, play around the My Body as a shield. Wow, okay. Yeah. They're going to get in with JD for 3k. End phase, Lila, Jane, what was that, Lila, Jane, Plague, and Wolf. Okay, the Wolf is also giving them a bit more protection. I was going to say when it's summoned. Pick up for turn there is D-Prison. Yep, sets. Passes. Cold Wave now. And this is going to seal it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they're doing all this. Oh, they've got Necro still. Yeah, yeah, okay. So they've got to play around the Necro. So they went Summon, Honest, stacked for Plague. I don't think there's a way around the Necro though, right? So this is still, this is 36, sorry. Yeah, this is still not game. This feels like a really bad idea. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're on one face down they can't use until your next turn, and a Greffer. And a single card in hand that we know is Greffer, they don't know is Greffer. But Vayu has some of the best clapback possible. And they're, yeah, well, they're not a 3 darks after they use the Necro, but they're not far off on their dark count. I guess JD is just a house, Goyo is a house. Yeah, I think this is probably fine, but it's not game this turn, and I don't think I'd be overextending into not game. So 28, 21, and then Necro for the JD. M phase. Oh, mills another Wolf, but that's Celestia, JD, Lila, and another Wolf. This is nice. Pass, draw for turn is Sirocco. Yeah, John's just going to scoop up. Yeah, there's not a lot they can do in that situation. Yeah, maybe being a bit too harsh on BB for overextending last term, but I guess I just really didn't need to still. Good game. Really good game. This is a huge win for BB. John is very high rated, so this is going to be an absolutely huge win for them on their way up to the top 100 rankings. Not a lot to say about the matchup in general. My Body as a Shield was interesting. Both players seemed to side into it, and it came in clutch for BB. I think what was interesting was that we didn't really see any darks on this side. I mentioned at the start I thought it was Twilight because of the monster reincarnation over the Beckoning Light, but maybe that's just what BB thinks is the better option, not having to set it. You know, yes, it's got a higher cost, but you can keep stuff in your hand that you don't want to get rid of, unlike with Beckoning. So maybe that's why they're thinking that. But still, really interesting match to watch. Always good to see Lightsworn. Even better when you see Lightsworn win. And actually, it didn't seem like the match was too down to the floodgates that, you know, were sided in. So that's always good to see as well. Huge win for BB. Congratulations. John is a hell of a player. So really good to see him back on the channel. But great one to watch, and always good to see a Lightsworn win.